We don't have a script to follow.
Or big-time endorsements.
We're not professional hunters.
No such thing in this country.
We are professional outfitters.
Trust me, that's as close as it gets.
We got lots of hunters each season.
We put them on deer. And I mean good deer.
We're deer thugs.
Mossy Oaks Deer Thugs is presented by Walmart. Save money, live better. Walmart.
Section 1, question 11.
How critical are sanctuaries? How close to them do you hunt?
Bedding areas are very critical.
Justin Akins, Canadian River Hilton.
You know, that's the main deal. Find the food source, find the bedding area, and cut the bucks off in between. Depends how much you scout, how well you know that buck as to how close you get to that bedding area. The closer you get, the more careful you better get. If you've really done your homework and you know the ins and outs of that buck and you know everything he's going to do, and you want to get in that bedding area, that's fine. But if he catches you hiding in there, he's going to be gone. You're going to be starting all over. I like to kind of stay off the skirts of the bedding area and try to get them in the transition areas. It's a little bit safer, and they don't change their patterns as much if you do bust them.
Well, it's first afternoon, 1st of January. We got some unseasonably warm weather for this time of year. The wind was supposed to shift, be out of the north this afternoon, but it didn't get here, so we made the last minute change of plans, change setups. But we're gonna get settled in here and see what happens.
We went in there that first afternoon, it was warm. It was high 70s when we headed in there. Got in there, nice afternoon, just warm and sunny. You'd think it's spring turkey season or 1st of October bow season. Anyway, that first evening we had the decoy out. One buck come in, he'd lay his ears back. He'd kind of walk around, act like he wanted to have an encounter with it. But no action ever got stirred up. Seen several deer, we just didn't find the buck that we were looking for that afternoon.
Mossy Oaks Deer Thugs is brought to you by Walmart, Ram Truck Brand, Quaker Boy, Lethal, Mossberg, and by Precision Shooting Equipment.
Section 1, question 11.
How critical are sanctuaries? How close to them do you hunt?
A sanctuary is an area you've declared no human activity in, and those old bucks will find those areas.
Jimmy Riley, Giles Island.
They're gonna find those little pockets, those little areas, and it might be right behind the camp sometimes, where they feel comfortable and they're not gonna be harassed, and they got food and they got cover and everything in that area. We've got several of them scattered across the island, and these areas are 40 to 70 acres big, and we never go in there. We hunt the trails coming in and out of there with a whole lot of success. So I think it'd be to your advantage, even if you have a small piece of property, to establish some form of sanctuary right in the dead center of your property.
Second morning, had that south wind still, so we headed back where we hunted the first morning. Right after daylight, I looked over my left shoulder and I could see a buck. coming through the trees. Next thing I could tell is he just had one horn. Man, I started reaching for my bow, getting all excited because that good mature buck that I'd seen in that area, he'd been running with a buck that had one horn broke off. As the buck got in closer, I noticed he was a mature buck, but he had shed one side that morning. You could see right there where his pedestal was, it was still bright red from where he had just shed it off. Anyway, it was really neat to see as he come right underneath our stand. He had about 4 other bucks with him, some other bucks that are really going to be nice in a year or so. But none of them was the buck that we'd seen in there before and had pictures of, so we passed on those deer.
Man, that was awesome. Got some good action going on this morning. Pretty mature looking deer, but he wasn't the one we're looking for. Bucks are bachelor back up. It's a lot like hunting early October. When you see one, you're liable to see 3, 4, 5 bucks running together. It makes it exciting when you see that lead buck coming in. You never know what all's going to be with him. Been a great morning. I haven't seen the one we're looking for. Lots of action.
We went back to that same stand that evening. I thought, you know, if we just stay here and put our time in here, that buck's going to show up. The buck that had came in that morning that had shed and had the fresh pedestal where he just shed his horn off, he came back in that evening. It was neat to see because it was just bright red on that pedestal that morning, and it was scabbed over and just kind of turned to dark brown, just like a scab would do if you cut yourself or something. So that was just neat to see the steps and stages of that. That's not something you get to see a lot when you're out in the woods.
Blake, how are today's bows able to achieve, like Evo here, such high speed at such low poundage?
Well, and that's a really good question. We recommend for people to try shooting lighter poundages. It just makes everything a lot easier in a hunting situation, and it makes the bow feel so much better. But to answer your question, number one, you're starting with a lot more speed to burn, you know, so you're automatically, you know, bows have picked up 30 plus feet per second over the last 5-6 years, especially with the X-Tech technology, with the heavily preloaded limbs. But the other thing is engineering is just keeps getting better and better and better. And now they're able to optimize them to where they still can get 6 inches of draw length adjustment and to get the maximum performance at every single draw length. And so if you change the draw length or you change the poundage, it's working within the system that is it's just superior engineering. And that's what really, it's a huge advantage to the hunter because now you can take a lighter poundage bow, it'll feel real good to you and be very forgiving in the woods.
People for years have been conditioned that poundage equals speed, and not so anymore, huh?
No, it really isn't. And you know, and the bottom line is you've got enough speed in the bows that you don't, if you get past your ego, you don't have to pull those really big weights anymore.
You got to be comfortable.
You got to be comfortable.
Absolutely.
I had a buck that I'd really been watching a lot, had a lot of pictures of, had pictures of him back early season. And the rut hit and he kind of wandered off for a while, but he came back into his home area. I needed a north wind to hunt this spot. Third morning, we finally got the wind that we needed. Just as it was starting to get daylight, we could see a couple deer coming.
Here comes 2 bucks coming down the hill.
Sure enough, he was one of them. Got right down in that little canyon bottom where we were set up. He was with another nice 8-point.
Looks like a shooter.
This buck, he just stayed right in front of that other 8-point, and I couldn't ever get a clear shot.
That bigger buck. You'll get broadside without that other buck behind him. I got a clear shot. I can draw.
It's one of those things that wasn't going to be a good ethical shot. If I had a pass through, I was going to get the other buck. So I kept waiting and waiting, and they were so close that it was hard to move at all. Finally, I got impatient. The deer did clear the back deer. I got a little bit of daylight between them. I decided to go ahead and draw. When I went to draw, the buck heard me. He looked right at me. I was fine, the buck was close, but what had happened is he turned and quartered to me, which was not a good shot. I didn't want to take the quartered shot, and plus the other buck was behind him again. So we were just on lockdown. Finally, he turns back to the left and starts walking out. He knows something's up, but he don't know what's up. I got impatient. The buck was walking. He was close enough. I decided I'd go ahead and take that walking shot and try to take him. I knew I had to lead him a little bit, and I led him a little bit too much. Shot right in front of him. I knew better. As much as I hunt, people say, you probably don't get buck fever anymore. You know what? I still get it. If I didn't get it, I wouldn't hunt. Absolute rookie mistake that was caused surely by buck fever.
Mossy Oaks Deer Thugs is brought to you by Come Here Deer, Charlie O Products, New Fletch, Scott Archery, Schwacker Broadheads, and by Mossy Oak Brand Camo.
Section 1, number 11.
How critical are sanctuaries? How close to them do you hunt?
They're very important in the aspect of trying to find out where your food source is and your bedding areas. I'm not a big fan of going in bedding areas because I think you can blow deer out and cause a lot more problems hunting those kind of things.
Charlie O'Brien, the Catch-22 Ranch.
What I think is important is find out where that bedding area is and find out where the food source is and try to, you know, set up your stand according as far as in between there. Because if you know that bedding area is, you know, everything kind of feeds off of that, and you can find out where they're going and what they're doing. And you know, a lot of people will go in a bedding area and blow things out. And a lot of times, you know, it's 2 or 3 days before they come back and feel comfortable in that area again. So, you know, understand where it is and don't go in there and mess it up, I think.
You know, this was an exciting trip when they called and told me they was sending me down to Kevin's to hunt at the Heart of Texas bow hunt. I was pumped up. 2 years ago, I'd never hunted whitetail deer off my ranch in Oklahoma, so it's been a quite unique experience getting to go hunt these deer on different parts of the country. Kevin put me in some great spots. He'd had some good pictures of deer and been seeing deer on his other hunts and stuff.
We're down here, Heart of Texas bow hunt, early December. Man, got a good frost on this morning. And these deer down here, they don't know what to do in this weather. I don't either. Got a few deer coming in down here. It's just absolutely gorgeous. We're gonna sit here a little bit this morning and see what kind of moves through this valley.
You know, you think come down here to Central Texas, you think, you know, light jacket weather at the most. And man, this cold front hit. We hunted the ground blind the first couple of days. Man, I was bundled up, had my warm mittens on, and I mean, it was a heavy frost on the ground. And the deer that we did see, you can just see the frost on their back, and it was cold.
There's an Owl's 8 coming right there. Hollering some does in. And they're really dogging around this morning. So cold morning's got them moving. Man, he's got a lot of deer down here. Definitely still some rut activity going on here.
Call Thug with Chris Kirby.
Chris, here's a scenario. We're out there hunting and, you know, we've got a buck coming in and we need to stop that deer to get a shot. If you had to choose one call, which one would it be to stop a deer?
Without question, a grunt call. You know, it'd be, in most cases we're hunting by ourselves. We got to do everything ourselves. I'd be at full draw as that deer's coming in. When I get ready, it's just gonna be an something to get him to stop so I can make that good clean shot. if I'm hunting with somebody else where I'm guiding and this and that, you have more options. Even under that scenario, I'm gonna grab a meat hook grunt call. He might be 300-400 yards out and we're rifle shooting. Try to get him closer. If he's not gonna get closer, just get him to stop. And they're just gonna stop and they're gonna look. And you just need that split second. But it's imperative at that point that you're ready to squeeze the trigger. You can't go and then pull your bow. You better be ready, stop them, make your shot.
That's right. All right, well, it's final then. The grunt call is the one to use.
The grunt call is the one to use.
Call Thug, brought to you by Deer Thug Calls, powered by Quaker Boy.
You know, we had a variety of setups on this hunt. Kevin had trail camera pictures of this deer, and he'd been seeing him throughout the season, but he was still out there for a reason. That's because he was smart and he was wily. We spotted the buck that we was after. He was a long ways off down in a flat, and couldn't get to him. We just kind of played cat and mouse with him. We'd bounce down there and he'd go the other way, and we just had to be patient and persistent. We hunted this same particular buck on about 3 different setups trying to get on him. We went from a ground blind to tripod stand, back to a different ground blind, you know, trying to change the setup, create a new look, and stay ahead of the game for this buck. It was the last morning of the hunt before we finally got it all pulled together. The last morning of the hunt, we set up against a tree, got some brush and cut it and put it around us and stuff, and well, it was a real foggy, cold morning, and it started just getting a little bit of light, and you know, on a normal morning it would have been daylight, and I could see something out there and tell it was deer.
It's still pretty dark, but I can make out quite a few deer out there in that pasture. I can see some big body, some bigger body deer. I know there's some bucks out there.
I knew this one deer was a little bigger than the rest, and I felt like it was the deer we was looking for.
Just gonna have to wait for it to get a little more light.
Finally got enough light and I could tell that was him, but I couldn't shoot. It was just like a bunch of turkeys pitching down off a roost onto a field in front of you, and you got a strutter right in the middle of 40 hens. Finally, he went to pushing the doe, and he pushed the doe over to our right, and I thought that was going to be my opportunity.
Section 1.
Question 1.
Do you hang your stands close to food or bedding areas?
Different scenarios for that. How can you give a one-word answer for that?
Food in the afternoon, bedding in the morning.
Food. What time of year?
Bedding area.
Food. Food in the afternoons, bedding in the morning.
Rapid Fire is brought to you by Walmart. Save money, live better. Walmart.
Section 1, question 11.
How critical are sanctuaries? How close to them do you hunt?
Sanctuaries are vital to any property if you're going to have mature deer on them.
Fred Law, Enon Plantation.
You can't go busting up in there. If you do, your property's not going to hold mature deer. It's okay to hunt, get the wind right, set your stands up on trails leading into and out of the sanctuary or bedding area, but refrain from getting in them. Deer just need a place to be deer, and that way you can keep mature deer on your property and not your neighbor's property.
Finally, he went to pushing the doe, and he pushed the doe over to our right, and I thought that was going to be my opportunity.
He's got him a doe, he's got him pushing around, nudging. And here he comes, he's gonna come over to the left. We're gonna get a shot right here.
Sure enough, he had a smaller buck or two right behind him, and you know, with a good chance of a pass-through shot, I couldn't take that shot. So I just waited patiently, and he pushed that doe plumb over to the left of the rest of the deer. He was facing straight away. I was afraid he was going to break and chase her plumb out of range. He turned and was slightly quartered away, almost broadside.
There he goes. Smoked him, brother. Got him. Buck down. Whew. Sweet. We knew where he was bedded and knew where he was feeding. And we sat back up here between his bedding area and the wheat field again this morning and worked out, and he come through with the rest of the deer. God, it took forever for it to get daylight this morning, sitting there and waiting and waiting and waiting. Old fog had set in, and only 15 minutes later before we had any light to shoot. Like I said, we played cat and mouse with this buck a little bit, and I might just go down there and see what he looks like on the ground. The old Mossberg did the trick. That's a sweet shooting gun right there. He is right there. You hunt all season and go hard, and got to hunt a lot this year and guided a lot. It never gets old. Always excited to get up every morning and go get some more of it. Man, what a pretty Texas deer right there. Look at that Texas whitetail. Man, what a dandy. We've seen a lot of deer here this week, and we got a glimpse of this buck early, and Kevin told us he was in this area. Yesterday morning we'd seen him down in this flat. He didn't come within shooting range, and we just kept putting in our time. And tell you what, he's got the deer down here, and he put me on a nice buck. I'm gonna call him up and tell him to come see what we got and go get a little breakfast.